It is the second weekend in May. You are pushing a green cart through your local Home Depot or Lowe's, $15 in your hand, looking at 13 plants that appear completely innocent. 6 of them will destroy parts of your yard you have spent decades building. Several are listed as toxic by American Poison Control. Every one of them is on the shelf with no warning label. Nobody at that register is going to stop you. The plant tag tells you about sun, soil, and water. Not one word about what year 3 looks like, or what happens when a curious grandchild reaches for the berries. I have been growing perennials for 40 years. I have made every one of these mistakes myself. Drop your U.S. state in the comments. I read every single one. Stay with me. Number 1 is the plant a viewer of this channel called the cockroach of the garden. I still have not gotten rid of it after 25 years. But before we get there, several plants on this list could send a child to the emergency room. Number 13, Dame's Rocket. You see this at Home Depot in May. Tall purple-pink flower spikes, 4 feet of bloom. The tag calls it a cottage garden classic. It is a classic in Europe, but in America it has escaped cultivation across more than 24 states. By year 2, Dame's Rocket is in your lawn. By year 4, your neighbor's yard. By year 6, it has crossed property lines into wooded areas you cannot reach. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources lists it as restricted because of its impact on native spring ephemerals, bloodroot, trout lily, and hepatica. Those wildflowers disappear by Memorial Day. If you love the vertical purple look, plant native wild bergamot, Monarda fistulosa. Same color, 4-foot height, blooms in summer, feeds native bees and hummingbirds, and stays where you plant it. USDA zones 3 through 9. Number 12, yellow loosestrife. This is the one that looks the most innocent at the garden center. Bright yellow flowers on 3-foot stems. Sold for $9.99 in a 1-gallon pot. The tag describes it as a sunny mid-border filler. What it does not say is that this plant spreads through underground runners that travel 2 feet per season in every direction simultaneously. I planted 3 of these in 1999 along the back of my main perennial bed. By 2003, I had yellow loosestrife in the lawn 15 feet away. By 2008, it was in a neighboring garden bed that did not belong to me anymore. The Ohio State University Extension specifically warns home gardeners that this species is extremely difficult to control once established. For that same bright yellow vertical color, plant native cup plant, Silphium perfoliatum. 8 feet tall in good soil, it feeds American goldfinches through the fall, and it is completely well behaved. Number 11, common tansy, invasive and toxic. The yellow button flowers above feathery aromatic foliage are charming. Home Depot's tag calls it an old-fashioned medicinal herb. What the tag omits is that common tansy is classified as a noxious weed in Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, Minnesota, and Washington, and is on the watch list in 8 more states. It spreads by underground rhizomes and by prolific self-seeding at the same time. Within 4 years of a single planting, you can have a 15-foot colony. The aromatic oils are documented as toxic to grazing animals, which is why western states regulate it on rangeland. For the feathery foliage and yellow button effect, plant native yarrow, Achillea millefolium. It gives the same texture, with flat-topped flower clusters in yellow, white, pink, or salmon. It supports beneficial insects, and it divides predictably without invading. USDA zones 3 through 9. Number 10 is the one Home Depot sells specifically as the answer to shade gardens, and it has destroyed more American woodland understory than any other ornamental. Periwinkle, Vinca minor. Home Depot sells this every spring as the answer to dry shade under trees. The plant tag promises evergreen foliage, lavender blue flowers in April, and complete ground coverage in 2 seasons. All of that is true. What is also true, and what the tag will never tell you, is that Vinca minor is listed as invasive across 13 American states, and it has been documented escaping residential gardens into native woodland understory across the eastern United States. It roots at every stem node, which means every piece of stem that touches soil becomes a new plant. A viewer of this channel wrote in last month that she has been pulling vinca out of a woodland edge for 19 years. The native alternative for dry shade is Allegheny spurge, Pachysandra procumbens. Native, evergreen, attractive, bottlebrush spring flowers. Stays exactly where you plant it. USDA zones 5 through 9. Number 9. Creeping Charlie, sometimes labeled ground ivy, at the garden center. This one was actually marketed to American homeowners in the 1980s as a lawn alternative for shaded yards. That is how it got into so many properties. 40 years later, it is one of the most consistently complained about lawn invaders in the country. Creeping Charlie spreads by stolons that root at every node, and by seeds carried in lawn clippings to every neighbor's yard within blowing distance. It releases natural chemical compounds, allelopathic suppressors, that prevent grass from regrowing in patches it has colonized. The University of Maryland Extension classifies it as one of the most difficult lawn weeds to control, specifically because it tolerates the same conditions that kill turfgrass. For a low evergreen ground cover that handles foot traffic, plant native wild strawberry, Fragaria virginiana. It has glossy leaves, white spring flowers, occasional tiny edible berries, and is completely well-behaved. Number 8. Chameleon plant, sometimes labeled fish mint at specialty nurseries. The variegated foliage in green, cream, pink, and burgundy looks like someone painted each leaf individually. Home Depot sells it as a shade ground cover for moist areas where nothing else will grow. Here is the issue. Houtuinia spreads by brittle white rhizomes that snap into a dozen pieces every time you try to dig them up. Every piece regenerates. The University of Wisconsin Extension describes the removal process as requiring excavation of all affected soil to a depth of 12 inches. That is not a metaphor. That is the literal recommendation. The smell, when you disturb the foliage, is exactly what fish mint suggests: sharp, fishy, unmistakable. For shaded, moist areas, plant native wild ginger, Azarum canadense. Glossy, heart-shaped foliage, hidden mahogany spring flowers, completely well-behaved, supports native woodland pollinators and ground beetles, and stays exactly where you plant it. USDA zones 3 through 8. Number 7 is the plant that gets the most poison control calls of anything on this entire list. Number 7, Lily of the Valley. Stop me here. This is the most dangerous plant on this list. Home Depot sells it every spring for $12 with no warning on the tag. Every part of this plant, the leaves and stems and the bright red berries that follow the white flowers, contains cardiac glycosides. These are the same family of compounds used in heart medication. In concentrated form, they can cause serious, sometimes fatal, heart arrhythmia. American Poison Control Centers receive documented cases every spring of children who ate the red berries thinking they were edible. Dogs and cats are at even higher risk. The berries appear in late summer at child eye level. A curious 3-year-old will reach for them. On top of the toxicity, Lily of the Valley spreads aggressively by underground rhizomes. By year 5, a single planting covers 30 square feet. If grandchildren visit or pets roam the yard, dig this out this weekend. For fragrant shade ground cover, plant foam flower, Tiarella cordifolia. It is native, has white spring flowers, and is completely non-toxic. Before we move on, which of the first 7 do you already have? Drop the name and your state in the comments. Now, Morning Glory, number 6. This one is going to surprise you. The seed packets at Home Depot every March show those gorgeous trumpet-shaped flowers in purple, blue, and pink, $5 for 50 seeds. What the packet does not show is what happens when those seeds drop into your soil and stay viable for the next 12 years. That sounds impossible, but it is true. Morning Glory seeds have been documented germinating after more than a decade of dormancy. You think you eradicated the plant. Spring comes, there it is again. The seeds are also toxic to dogs and cats. They contain lysergic acid compounds that cause neurological symptoms and vomiting in pets that eat them. The ASPCA lists morning glory seeds among the more common spring pet poisoning calls every year. Beyond the seed bank, the plant climbs by twining, pulls down low fences, and shares a name with field bindweed, Convolvulus arvensis. Convolvulus arvensis is listed as a noxious weed in more than 35 American states. For a fast-growing annual flowering vine, plant black-eyed Susan vine, Thunbergia alata. It has cheerful orange-yellow flowers, climbs predictably, and has no seed bank. And then there is Japanese knotweed. It is still occasionally sold at plant swaps and online marketplaces under the name Japanese bamboo, and anyone who plants it without knowing what it does is making one of the most consequential property decisions of their life. Japanese knotweed produces rhizomes that extend up to 10 feet deep and over 20 feet laterally from the parent plant. Those rhizomes exert enough force to crack concrete foundations, penetrate asphalt driveways, and grow through the gaps in brick walls. In the United Kingdom, the presence of knotweed on a property has to be legally disclosed during a real estate sale because mortgage lenders treat it as a structural risk. Professional removal in the United States runs between $5,000 and $50,000 per property. This can be costly. If someone offers you this at a plant swap, no matter what name they call it, decline politely. There is no safe location to plant Japanese knotweed on residential property anywhere in America. Never plant it on residential property. Number 4 has actual lawsuits attached to it, and people lose them. Before we get to number 4, here is the removal method that actually works for every plant on this list, and you can do it without a single chemical. Cut all top growth to the ground in late summer. Cover the entire affected area with 2 overlapping layers of heavy cardboard. Wet the cardboard thoroughly. Top it with 6 to 8 inches of wood chip mulch. Leave it undisturbed for 12 full months. No peeking, no shortcuts. The combination of light deprivation, moisture retention, and compression eliminates the root system of even the most aggressive spreaders. Number 4, running bamboo. The garden center sells it as an instant privacy screen, $20 per plant. By year 3, you have a tropical-looking wall along your back fence. By year 6, you have new shoots coming up in your neighbor's yard, your driveway, and the city sidewalk. Several states, including Connecticut, New Jersey, Oregon, and California, have started enacting legislation specifically targeting running bamboo because of property line encroachment lawsuits. In some jurisdictions, you can now be held legally liable for damage your bamboo causes to neighboring properties. Professional removal of an established bamboo grove runs from $1,500 to $5,000 and is not guaranteed without follow-up monitoring for 2 full seasons. For a tall, non-invasive privacy screen, plant clumping bamboo, Fargesia rufa. Cold hardy to zone 5, 6 to 10 feet tall at maturity. It expands in a tidy clump that stays exactly where you plant it. It will never send a rhizome under your driveway. Number 3, Chinese wisteria. The garden center sells this in spring for $25. The tag shows the famous cascading purple flower clusters. The tag does not tell you that Chinese wisteria typically takes 5 to 7 years to bloom. And during those years, it establishes a root system and a twining habit of extraordinary persistence. When it finally blooms, the vines wrap around support structures with enough force to deform metal gutters, crush wooden arbors, and pull down spouts. The rhizomes emerge as new plants 10 feet from the original. One more warning the tag never gives you: the seeds inside those decorative bean-like pods are highly toxic. Children are drawn to them because they look like green beans. The ASPCA classifies wisteria seeds as causing serious vomiting and neurological symptoms. Hospitalization cases happen every year across the southeastern states, where Chinese wisteria is invasive across 14 states. For the same fragrant flower display, plant Native American wisteria, Wisteria frutescens, cultivar Amethyst Falls. It blooms in year 2, is manageable, and will not destroy your pergola. Number 2 is the plant Oregon, banned entirely. Number 1 is unstoppable. Quick ask before the top 2. If any of this has saved you from a real mistake this season, hit subscribe. The next regret list is being built from your comments. Number 2, English ivy, sold at every Home Depot in America as the solution for shaded slopes. The tag promises evergreen coverage. What it never mentions is what happens in phase 2. After English ivy covers the ground, it climbs. It attaches to tree trunks with adhesive rootlets and ascends into the canopy. The added weight makes mature trees vulnerable to wind and ice damage. Over 10 to 15 years, it kills hardwoods that took decades to grow. The family safety concern is real too. The leaves contain saponins that cause contact dermatitis when you handle the vine. Children who chew the dark blue-black berries experience severe vomiting. The plant is on the ASPCA toxic list for dogs, cats, and horses. A viewer of this channel has been fighting her neighbor's English ivy for 20 years. It destroyed her fence, popped the boards right off, and is now in the trunk of an oak she planted in 1991. She is watching the oak slowly die. Oregon banned it entirely. It is invasive in 13 more states. For dry shade ground cover, plant native Allegheny spurge, Pachysandra procumbens. Number 1, Goutweed, Bishop's weed, snow on the mountain. Home Depot sells all 3 names every spring for the same plant. A viewer of this channel, the one whose comment got more likes than any other under my last regret video, called this plant the cockroach of the garden. He wrote that he has had a tarp over a goutweed patch for 2 full years, and the plant still comes back every time he lifts it. I have the same story. In 2001, I planted Goutweed variegatum along the dry shade strip beside my garage. It brightened the corner for 3 years, then it crossed under the foundation, and then it appeared on the other side of the garage. By 2010, a landscape crew quoted me $1,900 to excavate 12 inches of soil across the affected area. I did not pay. I am still pulling goutweed in 2026. For the same dry, shade-brightening effect, plant Bishop's hat, Epimedium grandiflorum. Heart-shaped foliage, delicate spring flowers, it will live 40 years in the same spot and it never invades. USDA zones 4 through 8. The viewer who named it the cockroach of the garden, you were right. I have been looking for that name for 25 years. 13 plants, 1 shelf, 0 warnings. If you take only one thing from this video, get lily of the valley out of any yard your grandchildren visit. Today, the berries are at child eye level by August. If you're in your 50s, 60s, or beyond, you have spent enough seasons replacing plants that betrayed you. Your time is too valuable for another 20-year war with something Home Depot sold you for $15. Tell me in the comments the worst plant you ever bought at a garden center. Name and your state. I read every one. And if you know a gardener heading to a nursery this weekend, send them this link before they spend money they will never get back.